Neptune moved into Aquarius April 4th, 2011. Having Neptune in the third house means that it would be more involved with communication and communities, and since we're talking about Aquarius, humanity. Neptune is a planet that can be described as causing delusions or illusions, and also associated with drug use. And in 2012, you would finally see the approval for medical use and recreational use without any sufficient testing on the lungs to make sure that there would not be problems later in the future. Before Neptune moved into the third house, President Obama would go through a lot of insinuations that he was not a citizen. And then when it moved into the third house, the illusion that he was or was not was always lingering. As the illusion of reality continues, we now see that fake news has taken over and we are moving away from really knowing what's going on in the world.
And they don't do news anymore. In fact, RT is one of the few channels doing news. RT does news. CNN stopped doing news a long time ago. They do Trump. Fox is Trump TV, and MSNBC is anti-Trump all the time. You don't see story. There was vicious winds and storms in the Northeast the other day.
Yeah.
Not covered on any of the three cable networks. Not covered. So when CNN started covering Trump, they were the first. They covered every speech he made. And then they made Trump the story. So Trump is the story in America. I would bet that 98% of all Americans mention his name at least once a day.
With all the distractions from Neptune and Aquarius, I wanted to take a look at what's going on in our sky. And if you haven't paid attention or noticed some of these ideas of change that's going to be discussed may make you start looking up and paying attention, because all the distractions from the fake news and the marijuana and anything else that might be pulling your attention away from what's important is really causing us to not pay attention to what's going on in our world.
And then it basically shows this picture to almost like to say, like, this is the normal moon phases. So if you're younger, like if you're 18 or younger, you may have never really even noticed the moon, and so you wouldn't even know better. But us old timers, we know, man. We know that the moon's not supposed to do that. And of course, when we look at our skies, this is exactly what we're seeing in our skies during the different moon phases. So it is accurate. That's what we're seeing right now, but it's different than when we grew up. And that's one of the things we point out at WSO, is that there's a lot of changes going on around us and in our solar system. And one of them is that the moon tilts, and we get a lot of grief for that. But again, guys, it's humorous. This subscriber from Texas actually adequately proved to me that it was not a lens flare, and they actually saw two of these in the sky at one point, these like dotted orbs. Here's one where it's next to the moon phase. Remember, the moon phase is upside down now. Anyway, back to the Texas story. And it's an object that I just am very, is it an object? Is it a lens flare? Like I said, I'm pretty convinced it's not a lens flare, and if it is an object, it is definitely of artificial, it's an artificial object of some sort. Either that or it's a star-going supernova, and I hope to heck that it's not that. But we'll move on to the next thing here. But we also saw a similar object in Milwaukee, and that's what I wanted to point out, was that we had some corroborating photography of this object. So here's an object that we've been tracking at WSO, and from Texas and from Wisconsin. The next story I want to talk to you about comes from a subscriber in Colorado, and these are taken out of their bedroom window, and it was taken at 1 p.m., and it was an overcast day in Colorado. So here is those pictures of this orb or object this individual took pictures of, and I know a lot of people do. There, look at it, you can actually see some dimensionality to it, but it's through the trees, so it's kind of hard to see. But again, objects being seen in the sky all over the place. It's just part of the changes that we're going through right now. We know in this community, not to be afraid, not to freak out. So you can actually see that on the one side, it is clearly blue in one light source. So you can see the blue light coming down on the water. And then the second light source, yellow over there. And then we also see that east-west light. So light very strange right now, because we do believe that there is a sun simulator in play here. And so the real sun is dimmer or not as visible. And in fact, we're actually kind of warping upwards right now. So you can see that there's a lot of tugging and pulling going on the Earth. But in addition to that, there's a creepy orange air glow surrounding the Earth. And this is from Fox News. And it's talking about the space agency trying to explain it. And it typically occurs when molecules, largely nitrogen and oxygen, are energized by ultra radiation from sunlight. Well, again, we think that that might be also a contributory factor, is all the energy that's going around the Earth. And that could also be ultraviolet in nature, as some people think, from one of these stellar cores or stars in our vicinity, in addition to our own star. But basically, we're starting to see this kind of almost start to illuminate in those photons in the upper atmosphere as this nitrogen, as the nitrogen layer is being hit by this energy. So very interesting stuff going on there. Look at this footage. Check it out. Looking at the stuff up in the sky and feeling like somebody's watching them back. Does anybody else have that feeling at all? Yeah? But the only time that you see this kind of a cloud usually, and Derek Bros pointed this out to me the other day as a pilot, is when there's a large, massive object that's tall enough to create a pressure differential, which creates the cloud, right? We've seen these before. Then why are we seeing these clouds up in the middle of the sky with no object that we can see, yet it's the same signature we get, right? The same signature that we get right there in the sky in the clouds. Could it be because objects are up there? The world is not what we think it is anymore, at least not with me. Check this out. This is more footage of red skies and strange red rainbows around the world, okay? This is happening everywhere. And then we're seeing these faces up in the clouds all the time. And I don't know what to tell you about this, guys. I still am trying to figure out why we're seeing faces in the clouds. No fear, only love. But just listen, things are weird.
The focus of this presentation will be on the ancient Hindu civilization's connection to the Sumerian pantheon of gods known as the Anunnaki. The historical record is replete with accounts of extraterrestrial involvement in human development and evolution. They were reported by many ancient civilizations, including the Sumerians, Egyptians, Greeks, Romans, Europeans, Mesoamericans. But the scriptures of the ancient Hindu civilization, during the time it was known as the Rama Empire, hold massive amounts of information about these beings who came to Earth from the heavens. When comparing texts from the Vedic scriptures with the Mesopotamian cuneiform tablets, we can see a very strong similarity between the Sumerian gods and the Hindu gods. Personalities, behaviors, doctrines, passions, wars, technologies, architectures, and many events suggest the ancient Hindus were not talking about mythic creatures or fantasy deities, but real beings. Superhumanoids coming from stars and their interaction with mankind. Perhaps the most fundamental link between the Anunnaki and the Indus Valley is the goddess Inanna, also known as Ishtar. This period also marked the onset of growing instability among the Anunnaki that would eventually lead to the end. So not only do we have Inanna intimately associated with the formation of the Indus civilization, we also have accounts of her flying from place to place in what is known in the region as Vimanas. But for now, the crucial question regarding Inanna is who was her Hindu counterpart? One compelling possibility is the Hindu goddess Kali. In addition to the physical proximity of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers to the Indus Valley, tells us that Inanna and Kali are related not by coincidence. Kali is associated with Durga. Durga is Kali and Kali is Durga. Although worshipped in the two different forms, both Durga and Kali are representations of the same feminine Shakti. In the Christian religion, we find the concept of the Holy Trinity. However, like many other concepts in the younger religions, the concept of a holy triad is much older than the Bible. The Trimurti, the sacred Hindu triad formed by Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, is identical to the Sumerian Anunnaki triad of Anu, Enki, and Enlil. Brahma, the grandfather, is the god who rules from the sky. Vishnu is the creator, the preserver, the life engineer, and Shiva is the destroyer. As the fish avatar and Lord of Wisdom, Vishnu can be considered synonymous with Enki. And in fact, one of the incarnations of Vishnu, the Matsya or fish avatar, is identical to the Sumerian Enki. The legend of the Matsya avatar who alerted humankind of impending planetary deluge and chose one righteous man, Vaivasvatu Manu, the Hindu Noah, to construct a boat or ark and place within it representatives of the various species on Earth to protect them from drowning, is identical to the legend of Enki, who saved humanity from the Great Flood by instructing Sasudra, the Sumerian Noah, to build an ark and save himself and the world's animals and plants from destruction. Shiva seems to correlate best to Enlil. In Sanskrit literature, he's depicted as the one who is eternally pure, or the one who can never have any communication of the imperfection of the Rajas and Tamas. Enlil despised the crossbreeding between the Anunnaki and the humans. Shiva is the most feared god of Hindu cosmogony. He's the one that destroyed the 3 cities of the Ashura demons that seemingly correspond to Sodom, Gomorrah, and possibly the Babel Tower. He's also the god that provided powerful weapons to other gods and warriors.
So just to make sure that I understand what you're saying, the exact same systems and the management structures and the coordination of how these Cabal or Illuminati countries were doing it back going hundreds of years, it just continued directly through to this galactic slave trade involving extraterrestrials.
Yes, to present time.
I know I've asked you this before, but for the purposes of clarity for today, how long have extraterrestrials been grabbing slaves off of our planet?
As long as we've been on this planet.
I was in a meeting on the subject with some other people, and this one young lady said, I've got one. And you got what? I've got one. Really? I have. I got a picture of it. UFO? Yeah, a real picture of it. So everybody goes out there, and they're standing around this fence because it dropped off quite a bit and then came back up. And so they took the picture, one picture of this whole valley thing. Not a picture like that, but just straight out. And they developed the pictures of all the party pictures the night before. And then this. You notice it's serrated on the sides and it's serrated on the top. Look what's coming out of the back of it in color. 5 separate gases coming out of this reptilian tanker, dropping 5 gases at 300 feet. You're smoking their gas today because they dropped this gas only on technically advancing communities on the planet. Okay? Every 4 to 6 weeks. So you could be getting it today. Not one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They didn't see it because everybody's minds are controlled to not see it, just like a stealth system. So the commander of this squadron made sure that that stealth was turned on. He forgot to turn on the stealth that prevents the camera from photographing it. Okay?
Okay, so that left me wondering if that could be why President Trump would like to start a space force. Something to think about. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I ask that you like and subscribe. And to see more, don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you'll know when I upload a new one.